My name is Chris Mellon. I spent approximately 20 years in the U.S. intelligence community, both in the Defense Department and on Capitol Hill with the Senate Intelligence Committee. The other day, I had the opportunity to see the new UAP documentary, Age of Disclosure, and after reflecting on it, I prepared a few remarks that I hope will be of assistance to Congress. In the new UAP documentary, Age of Disclosure, we learned that the Air Force had a secret program to track UAP in the vicinity of Area 51 and other sensitive military facilities in the 1990s. This report comes from none other than General James Clapper, former Director of U.S. Air Force Intelligence and former Director of National Intelligence. Does that secret Air Force UAP program continue to this day? Where is the data? What did the Air Force learn? Moreover, why is it that when Congress asked the services for UAP information in their possession in the 2020 Intelligence Authorization Bill, the Air Force denied having any pertinent information other than a handful of very recent innocuous reports submitted after DoD guidance was finally issued in 2020, requiring all military components to report UAP sightings? In my view, the Air Force brass treat Congress with contempt, even if not in a strictly illegal manner. I also believe that the secret Air Force UAP program described by General Clapper, or another like it, remains quietly active behind the scenes. I say this because it would explain a number of things. For example, why is it that Air Force F-22s, despite having greatly superior sensors, did not report UAP operating in DoD training areas off the East Coast when Navy F-18s were routinely detecting and reporting UAP on the same ranges? Why is it the USS Princeton radar data from the Nimitz case disappeared after U.S. Air Force officers visited the ship? In fact, there are many similar cases where Navy data was removed by U.S. Air Force personnel. Similarly, why are the Nimitz deck logs missing for precisely the period of Princeton UAP tracking back in 2004? Why is it the Air Force never reports UAP detected by its strategic radar systems? These solid-state phased array radars are believed to be the most powerful emitters on the planet. Yet despite their massive range and constant coverage, even when UAP are detected operating for days directly in front of these powerful emitters, the Air Force fails to issue any UAP reports. Why is it that none of the innumerable NORAD UAP intercept cases from recent decades were submitted with the 2021 UAP report to Congress, including the famous UAP case over the Bush Ranch in Texas, where F-16 pilots were made to sign NDAs by the Air Force? As recently as last year, the Air Force was still refusing to provide NORAD UAP intercept data to DoD's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in Congress. Why are there no reports of UAP in space despite a massive U.S. Air Force space surveillance capability? Why is it that the Air Force seized Navy sonar data obtained after an encounter by a U.S. nuclear submarine with an underwater UAP? In sum, I believe the Air Force is treating Congress contemptuously when it comes to dodging formal congressional requests for Air Force UAP data. It seems likely the Air Force has either carefully marshaled all of its UAP data into an obscure, highly secret, quote, waived special access program that even the chair and ranking members of the intelligence committees are not cleared for, or that the Air Force is using Atomic Energy Act or other authorities to justify concealing this UAP information. For example, the Air Force might claim they are merely the executive agent for CIA or the National Nuclear Security Agency, and that reporting of this data is therefore not their responsibility. Their counterpart agency might claim the reverse, leaving Congress uninformed as the, quote, deep state exploits a fissure in the current congressional military and intelligence reporting framework. Regardless, it is time for Congress to put the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force the Secretary of the Air Force, and the Director of the Air Force Office of Special Investigations under oath in a secure hearing room to get to the bottom line. Enough games. It is past time for the appropriate committees on the Hill to go directly to the source. While the Armed Services and/or DoD appropriations subcommittees confront the Air Force leadership, the intelligence committees can do their corresponding part by placing the CIA's Deputy Director for Science and Technology and Director of Operations under oath. The American people want and need the U.S. Air Force to be as effective and successful as possible in maintaining control of U.S. airspace and providing support to U.S. military personnel abroad. We now know the Air Force is failing when it comes to intercepting increasingly assertive drones and UAP operating in restricted military airspace. The evidence abounds and includes the Air Force's inability in December 23 to track or deter or intercept the numerous drones that effectively rendered the Air Combat Command at Langley, Virginia, inoperable for weeks. In fact, other U.S. Air Force bases have in similar fashion had to curtail training operations the last few years due to the presence of unexplained aircraft, sometimes drones, sometimes UAP, operating in DoD airspace. UAP incursions over nuclear sites have been going on since World War II. But General Clapper's comments are the first acknowledgement of a secret U.S. Air Force UAP program operating as recently as the 1990s. Indeed, this secret program may go all the way back to the 1950s and be part of a larger ongoing program, perhaps one that includes attempts to reverse engineer recovered UAP technology. Congress clearly needs this data to assess the potential threat to the nation and the adequacy of U.S. Air Force plans and capabilities to deal with any threat. The disinformation and withholding of vital air defense data have been allowed to continue for far too long. The solution is simple. Bring the Air Force leadership to the Hill and compel them to divulge the data General Clapper referred to alongside any other pertinent UAP information that has not previously been shared with Congress. I believe this would reveal incredible, possibly even transformational video radar reports and other objective sensor data that has been hidden from the Congress, the scientific community, and the American people for decades. Since over 25 years have elapsed, the information from the 1990s should also be subject to automatic declassification. This is a huge opportunity for Congress and the public. One can only hope the committees charged with national security responsibilities will take prompt action. Thank you for considering my views.